Welcome back to the Business Buzz, the business topics that matter, an insightful and fresh take on a variety of issues that impact the local business environment. Business Buzz.
Welcome back to the Business Buzz right here on Radio Cayman. I'm your host, Sabrina Turner, and in this segment we put the spotlight on CIIPA. We're going to be hearing and understanding more about the background, the history, and the mission, CIIPA's role as a supervisor, definition of money laundering and terrorist financing, legislation which comprises of the Cayman Islands AML CFT regime, and we'll also break down as much of these acronyms that you'll be hearing this morning. I am pleased to welcome in studio Ms. Cherie Ebanks, CEO of CIIPA, and Ms. Vanessa Hansen, Head of Operations and Communications. Good morning, ladies, and welcome to our show.
Good morning.
Sabrina. Thank you for having us.
Can you share some information on CIIPA and the history of your organization's primary mission?
CIIPA actually, it's the Cayman Islands Institute of Professional Accountants, and we're formed back in 1970 as the Cayman Islands Society of Professional Accountants. We're a couple of the new accountants who had arrived in Cayman, saw the potential for the financial services industry to grow, and they formed the society with the purpose initially of ensuring that it was best practice here, ensuring that the accountants who came to Cayman or any accountants in Cayman were fully qualified to provide the services, and also as general networking to stay in contact with international advances, etc. And it grew, and they did a great deal over the next 30 years. And then eventually they decided, needed to take it to the next level. They became an associate member of the International Federation of Accountants, who is the global organization responsible for accounting. And they became an associate member in 2007 and then worked very hard to become a full member. Mm-hmm. And to become a full member, you needed to work towards satisfying the membership obligations, of which there are 7. The big one really, there's most of them are adherence to international standards, right, but the big one really is for quality assurance. And so CIIPA worked towards providing a quality assurance regime, which actually dovetails very nicely into the new supervisory role that we have today, mm-hmm, which is the anti-money laundering and counter-financing of terrorism.
Okay, which led right into that question. What is AML and CTF? You just said it. Is there, as the AML supervisory authority for the accounting profession, talk about the role it entails? So
it's this has really just come up in the last 5 and 6 years. So obviously we know back in 1989 the FATF came out with their 40 recommendations as they pertain to anti-money laundering. Obviously after the attacks on 9/11, the world globally started to ramp up on counter-financing of terrorism. Mm-hmm. And it does go on. I mean, and there were vehicles such as charities that these organizations, yes, used to raise funds to finance their activities. So that also then became a focus. Cayman's always had a very strong anti-money laundering regime, mm-hmm, and that obviously pertain to the areas that were the highest risk, financial services in terms of banking, cash transactions, wire transfers. And then it was expanded over the last 5 years to include what we call the DNFPBs, which are the designated non-financial business providers. And that includes the accountants, the lawyers, mm-hmm, real estate, precious metals, gems, and those areas that you're not directly involved, right, in financial services, but you are indirectly involved. So you're basically the designated non-financial services. So that's sort of how it all started off. Mm-hmm. Globally, in the last, I would say probably 10 years, national risk assessments were carried out. The Cayman Islands carried out its own national risk assessment. It started, I think, about 2013, 2014. And to identify in particular, I mean, it went through the whole banking sector and to identify the areas of risk. And, which the accountants came up. It was a very low risk for the accountants, a 0.28 on the World Bank scale, whatever, mm-hmm, that whatever that
Equates
meant.
to-
But it is low risk, but we have to absolutely address it, and somebody needs to supervise that to make sure that our general populace understands the seriousness of AML and counter financing of terrorism or just terrorist financing.
Right.
It's, it is serious, but it's not as high risk in the Cayman Islands as it is obviously in other jurisdictions.
What do you think that is the case?
The vehicles really aren't here. So if you recall, about 2 years ago, they started off the not-for-profit, the law. They amended that law because, as I said before, charities were abused
Right.
In doing that. So
And
they
that
strengthened
had more to that legislation. I think there might have even been a misunderstanding locally because that legislation had more to do with global standards and countering the financing of terrorism, as opposed to it helped bring everybody, I think, in line, which was a good thing here, but that wasn't really
the purpose.
initial purpose.
The purpose was to address, what globally, the FATF and the CIIPA had said, this needs to be addressed, is the charities. And still the charities are a high-risk area, but not in the Cayman Islands. We did... I do remember years and years ago, but they came through the fiduciary system in where you had international charitable organizations, which were touted under churches, etc., that were here. But they actually fell into CIIPA's purvey because they were actually trusts that were set up.
Okay.
So they fell in under that anti-money laundering regime.
Now tell us about some of the essential tasks an accountant provider can perform to be compliant with the new AML regulations.
I mean, the first thing is to register with us.
Okay.
It's a very different age that we have out there because obviously we've got the trade and business licenses. So those people that we're engaging, and I'm really going to speak now to those listeners and friends or whatever, we need to spread the word that even if you're engaging in bookkeeping services, you must register with CIIPA. There is no charge this year, but it is the law. And, we will supervise you, but you must register with us. It's, we do have an anomaly. It's not just if you're providing full accounting services or audit. All of our audit service providers are registered with us. But it is, if you're sitting there and you've got a trade and business license and you're preparing somebody's books for them, sitting at your dining room table at night, you need to register.
So anyone who's providing any sort of accounting service needs to register with CIIPA. And I think they may be registered with DCI, for example, as a consultant, but if they're providing accounting services, they need to register with us. The registration form can be found on our website, and people can also contact us at our office. And then the next steps are making sure that they've looked at what their risk is. They've done an internal risk assessment. I think some of the maybe challenges for small businesses is they think that they maybe need to hire staff for their AML regime. They don't. They can appoint staff they already have. We're not saying there's obviously going to be a little bit of an opportunity cost there in terms of if they're spending time on this. It will take away from other things, but they can either outsource or they can just appoint staff that they already have. But it's doing that internal risk assessment, making sure that they have their processes in place, making sure that they're doing due diligence on all of their customers. And I think maybe the best way to put it, and the thing that I think is good for us right now is that everybody's going through this process for the DNFBPs. Right. So you hear DCI talking about it. We're going to hear CIIPA talking about it soon. I think there have already has been some outreach out there. But the point is everybody is going to need to do it. And now, while the legislative regime has been in place, now it's somebody's checking. So now our supervisory role is going in and saying, okay, what have you done? Show us what you've done. And then there will be inspections that will take place as well this year.
For someone who's just saying, this is another phase, why should I have to do this? They'll not find me. What are the consequences? Because it's one thing having the law.
It is the law, but the consequences can be quite severe. You can end up in jail. And I just want to back up because just a little bit in terms of Vanessa mentioned that everybody's doing this. This is not just everybody in the Cayman Islands. This is everybody globally doing this. Okay. And it's, and we've identified areas that are higher risk areas, i.e. if you've got, for example, you could have a small bookkeeping service provider who is working with a strata, and they go in, or even a retail business, and they go in and they collect their cash, they check up all their takings for the day, and then they take that cash and deposit it to the bank and do all of that work. That is an extremely high-risk area. So they would fall into for scope. And we need to also clarify, and I don't want to scare everybody because, and as Vanessa already alluded to, is to measuring your own risk. But if you're not engaged in relevant financial business, then we will just be making sure that you're not engaged in relevant financial business, and we can talk about what that is. But if you don't need to go through all of these different steps, right? You're not in scope for AML monitoring, basically, but we still have to make sure that you're signing those declarations to say that nothing has changed, that you're not doing this type of work at all.
And that's why on the registration form, if people go to our website and look at that, we are asking for business information. It is kept completely confidential, but that's how then we are able to assess what type of business you're doing, if you're doing relevant financial business, and then kind of which category you need to be in for supervision for us. And then, as Sherry said, we'll keep checking back. Is this still what you're doing? Have you expanded anything that you're doing where you might fall? So I guess that's the other, everybody's not getting inspected all at once. Right. That's not how that works.
So you're not here to shut people down.
No. We're here to make it. I mean, one of CIIPA's core purpose is really to enhance and protect the financial services industry and just generally the economy in the Cayman Islands and the public interest. So, that's why we're here. And, we're a self-regulatory body, but we are the appointed supervisor for AML. Obviously, if you've got a little accounting business and you're sitting at your dining room table at night, you don't need CIIPA to come into your home and inspect what you're doing, right? So, you're trying to take an appropriate level of supervision for whatever you are doing. And I think this is it's a good fit. CIIPA also, for those people that, we say it's all of the information that comes into us is confidential. It's just kept we've got 4 staff members, including Vanessa and myself, and we're not subject to FOI. So, everything is completely confidential. It's locked away in our offices. So, that's one part which could be a comfort level for some people, but they must come and register with us.
Okay. So creating this awareness as to responsibility, how has that been going? Have you seen people more receptive of just making sure they're getting in line?
Not quite yet.
Okay.
We've only just started. Well, we've only started the campaign itself.
Okay.
But we have a very short timeline because the deadline for registration is the 30th of May. And that is because, obviously, the Cayman Islands had their CIIPA review in November. And again, Vanessa has already spoken somewhat to this. The Cayman Islands did really, really well on a technical basis. We've got the laws in place. Well, we had a good number of the laws in place. We enhanced those laws. But they don't want to see that we've got the technical thing in place. They want to make sure that what we have in place from a technical aspect works. So it is the effectiveness of it. So it's not just the effectiveness. It's just to demonstrate that the general public understand what AML CFT is, that the people that are in the industry understand what it is and understand what their obligations are. And, the other thing is, too, is what I think a lot of people, in fact, I didn't realize this until we began this journey, is that every citizen in the Cayman Islands, no matter what you do, is responsible for reporting for AML or CFT if you see it. So it doesn't matter if you're working in financial services. It doesn't matter if you're working in accounting. Every citizen has that responsibility, which covers the whole ambit of things. So if you see something and you're working in a jewelry store and you see something untoward going on, you have, as a citizen, the responsibility to file a report. And this is what the CIIPA and the FATF are looking for. They are looking for your suspicious activity reports or your SARS, and they're looking for quality in those, and they're looking to see where they're coming from. And we got a paper yesterday from Transparency International, and it was amazing that, and that's why I say the whole world is going through this at the moment, that the number of, or the percentages of reports made by the accounting profession is extremely low, but that's because the awareness hasn't been there. And now it's a fact of having to drive that awareness.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. It'll be interesting to see how this yields with this awareness. But, you know, Cayman is no jurisdiction that is anywhere unique. We're actually coming up to global standards. So all of a sudden you're hearing all of these laws, all of these regulations. What is the government thinking about? We're just getting up to speed.
Well,
with
I
global
would
standards,
actually,
would you say?
Sabrina, I would actually argue that Cayman's international
in some
standards
areas.
are above
Okay.
the global standard. The Cayman Islands
But
has done.
implementing then is probably making sure
it's the effectiveness of them.
Okay.
It is, and I'll give you an example that was given back by some members of World Bank that were here a couple of years ago. In that, say you have conducted a fraud, and, you know, we have white-collar crime in people either lifting money out of the tills or whatever, and they're done, they're charged, they go to jail, but they are not taking that second charge for money laundering. Oh. And that's what they're looking for. They're looking to see that your anti-money laundering system is effective, right? So, you know, one would argue, well, they're already in jail, who cares?
Yes.
But no, the FATF, they don't care why they're in jail. But the fact of the matter is they also perpetrated money laundering, and you didn't charge them for that. So that's what they're looking for, right? And it's that, you know, Cayman has done a fantastic job. And in our industry, in the accounting industry, we adhere to every single international standard that is out there in terms of audit, in terms of education, and that's our purpose. We have to make sure that the industry in Cayman is top notch and does that.
Right.
Not everybody, and it's amazing, and it was amazing to me when I came into this industry on going around to and meeting with, because we meet with different countries and in different environments, as to how well Cayman's actual regime has done and where we are positioned. And even in reading the paper from Transparency International yesterday, I was like, wow,
we tick a lot of
we
boxes.
really did a good job, you know?
Yeah.
It's just driving that awareness for the general public,
Right.
And that's where we've fallen down is the outreach, and that's what they want to see when the CIIPA come back in September to reevaluate. They want to see that we've done an outreach. They want to see that people understand what AML and CFT is. So it is, and I say it's every citizen's responsibility. So whether you're working in a bar or whether you're working on the beach, you need to understand what it is, and you need to understand what your responsibility is as well.
And outreach was a big part of the recommendations that came. So yes, they want to see demonstration. They want to look at suspicious activity reports. They want to make sure that we're supervising. But they outreach in a lot of the recommendations across industries. It was outreach. It was make sure that you've raised awareness. So.
And here we are.
Yes.
Here we are. Here we are. You're in tune to Radio Cayman's Business Buzz, and I'm speaking, and I'd like to welcome to our show Ms. Cherie Ebanks, CEO of CIIPA, and Ms. Vanessa Hansen, Head of Operations and Communication, as we learn more about the latest campaign to raise an awareness as to responsibilities in regards to anti-money laundering and counter-financing for terrorism. Yeah. There are a lot of acronyms this morning, but we hope that you're able to be informed and understand exactly what they're tasked with and letting you know your responsibility. Keep it locked to the Business Buzz for more when we come back.
Oh gosh. Don't let the stress of taking care of loved ones get you down.
Home care, now made easier with Cayman Medical Supplies. 100% Caymanian owned. Cayman Medical Supplies now stocks a wide range of home care supplies. Hospital beds, all types of wheelchairs, including beach access wheelchairs, lifts, commodes, shower chairs, walkers, Curad brand orthopedic supplies. Free blood glucose monitors with the purchase of 1 pack of test strips, blue underpads, and a whole lot more.
Need home care convenience? Drop by Cayman Medical Supplies at 93 Smith Road, Windward Center, or call 949-6211. Free delivery.
Business owners, managers, and marketers interested in learning how digital and social media marketing can help grow your business? Join Yellow Media Group Monday, May 27th at Yellow Digicon and unleash your company's digital potential. Learn from international digital marketing and social media experts, including speakers from Google and Matchcraft, plus a Fortune 500 digital marketing strategist. Complimentary registration for Yellow Media Group customers. Register now at digiconcayman.com or findyellow.com. Presented by Yellow Media Group in partnership with Google.
Save time, don't stand in line. You can apply for or renew your trade and business license online 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just visit dci.gov.ky and click on the Trade and Business Online application link. Now, you don't need to stand in line, take time out of your busy schedule or try to find parking. You can apply for your trade and business license online. Visit dci.gov.ky today and save time for running your business.
Welcome back to the Business Buzz, the business topics that matter, an insightful and fresh take on a variety of issues that impact the local business environment. Business Buzz.
Welcome back to the Business Buzz as we hear more in this second segment of the latest campaign to raise awareness as to responsibilities in regards to AML, CFT, specifically as it relates to accounting profession here in Cayman Islands. I'm pleased to welcome in studio with me Ms. Shiri Ebanks, who's CEO, and Ms. Vanessa Hansen, Head of Operations and Communications of CIIPA. Now, let's talk about and what is terrorist financing. We're hearing a lot about this.
Mm-hmm. So, as I sort of mentioned before, after 9/11, and obviously there's a lot of terrorism activities that have been going on globally, they need money. And so it's ways in which and how they develop vehicles in order to raise funds. And unwittingly, you and I could be donating funds to something that we think is for really good, but it ends up being the underlying, I won't say the underlying beneficial owners because that's not 100% accurate, but the underlying body that receives the funds at the end of the day are these terrorist organizations. And I had my eyes opened. I think it probably was only about 4 years ago when they started, we had a presentation from government to say how these organizations use these different structures. And of course, when you're innovative and you're thinking about different ways of doing things, you're 10 steps ahead of the legal or the legislature, right? And so these organizations are very smart people, and they've put their structures in place, and they've abused the systems. They've abused the trust and companies laws in the Cayman Islands, for example. But the Cayman Islands have never really been a big. I mean, I do remember probably back in the 80s. Probably 80s, mid 80s, when Adnan Khashoggi, and they had. He had structures in the Cayman Islands, and some of that then went in for terrorist financing. So it was, it happens. It has happened here, but basically that's what it is. It's them forming these types of structures, and in duping you and I into donating it, and it's they've used church, they've gone under the guise of churches, right. And they've used structures in the United States because they're all tax free. They're not subject to any types of taxation. So they've been very clever in the structures that they've put together.
And I think, earlier when we were talking about legislation, we're going to see kind of a constant evolution of that because it is going to be
constantly reinventing their own wheel to try and circumvent the system. Now, legislation which comprises the Cayman Islands regime, what are the key areas that you're looking at for that, for anti-money laundering and CFT?
So you've got your proceeds of crime law, which has been around in Cayman for a long time. So when we did our original mutual evaluation agreements, the MLATs, many years ago, so that's kind of when everything, started off, and then the proceeds of crime started. And then we, that they're addressed, and there's very serious repercussions within there for people who were committing the money laundering. But it was also some serious repercussions for those of us that were in the banking sector, that if we didn't report or we suspected it, there was, I think the prison sentence was 14 years. So it was, there were some serious repercussions. So, we started off with the proceeds of crime law. We had the AML regulations, which sort of plug into that, and the anti-money laundering law itself, the law and the regulations. And then coming after that was the terrorism law. So all of these sort of dovetail and all come together to address not just the anti-money laundering, but any of the other, the crimes, the proceeds of crimes. They have taken sort of taxation. It's a huge area because there are countries that say that if you are evading taxes, that is a form of money laundering. But I think primarily for the purposes of what we're doing at the moment, taxation is a fairly low risk area and hasn't significantly been addressed. But there's bigger fish to fry right now than what they call typical tax evasion.
Right. Now, for the sake of those who may just be joining us and understanding a little bit more based on the conversation being had here, who needs to register with CIIPA?
Anyone who is providing accounting services. Now, Sherry mentioned earlier the public practice firms, all of the audit firms are already registered with us for the purpose of quality assurance. So because they're already registered, now we're just gathering additional information from them in regard to the AML CFT. So they don't need to re-register.
Okay.
We have reached out to them separately to say we need some additional information from you. But anyone providing bookkeeping services, payroll services, so anyone who's doing any type of accounting service, even if they're not registered with DCI under the guise of accounting, they need to register with us. Again, we will be collecting information which will be kept confidential about the type of business that they're carrying out. And then from there, they'll kind of be put into, I guess, different buckets, so to speak. And then those doing relevant financial business will go from there, and some will be selected for inspections.
But I will say that it is all going to be risk-based. So if you're engaging, you've got one or two stratas that you're doing their books for, whatever, and you're doing their banking, you're going to not be high risk, but you are going to be sort of at medium risk. So it is going to be, I don't want to use the term light touch, but the touch is going to be appropriate to what you're actually doing. So it is going to be different at all levels. And like I say, I mean, if you're doing bookkeeping services and that's all you're doing is striking a set of financial statements, the thing is that everyone, whether you're doing bookkeeping or accounting services or whatever, consulting, you need to know your customer. So the KYC part is you need to know your customer. You need to be doing your customer due diligence, your CDD. And once you've got your customer due diligence, I mean, everybody's going to be, and we all, we go to the bank and you want to open a new bank account and it's like, you've got, I need this.
Exactly.
Oh, no, it can't be any more than this. So
Yeah.
everybody's going to need to be doing that and maintaining that, in their records. Everybody has to know their customer. Everybody has to be doing their customer due diligence and know what it is that you need to be collecting. And I would actually say, even if you're not engaged in relevant financial business, that you should still be doing this. You should be aware of who your customer is, who you're dealing with. You should be. It doesn't, even if you're, no matter what it is, you should be aware of what your customer does.
Now, what can you relay regarding the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force mutual evaluation report? What are you able to share with us?
there was a whole, I think there was a couple of page spreads in the media as to what that looked like when it came out. It only came out at the beginning of March. It was very useful in terms of what did we need to do. And we're on a higher monitoring cycle because they want to make sure that the Cayman Islands and the other areas in the region and globally, we're not the only ones.
Okay.
We're not the only ones.
Actually, it was very helpful. They came back and said, well, okay, this is what we found. This is what we would like to see you doing to rectify that. And so we're on an enhanced reporting cycle. They'll be coming again. Our next report, I think, is due to them to say what we've done, but in September, which is why we're rushing, because the DNFPB area is one of the larger areas of concern. Even though it's a lower risk area, and the Cayman Islands, we think, oh my gosh, we're using a sledgehammer to break a little peanut here. But they need to see that we've done it. They need to see that we've raised awareness. They need to see that we've got people registered. They need to know that those underlying people providing these services have done their due diligence on their customers. So it's so when the report goes back in September, I think we have I can't remember how long the period is where it's the final cutoff and say, right,
February
guys.
2020.
Right, thank you. So that's it, and then the consequences for the Cayman Islands. I think they don't really call it a blacklist anymore, but it is essentially the consequence is you will be on a blacklist, of which could be very serious for the Cayman Islands in terms of if any of the countries decided to put sanctions on the Cayman Islands in terms of certain businesses. For the financial services, everything could
and businesses not being able to do business with us, right?
Okay.
Other international organizations.
So this could be far-reaching.
It could
and
be.
could
Absolutely.
definitely impair a lot of in which business can be conducted here.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
And we all want to get on board.
Yeah.
But it's a very serious thing. But as I say, the Cayman Islands isn't the only jurisdiction in the world. Everyone is going through this, even the United States.
Right.
Everybody is doing
UK,
this.
Canada.
Everybody is rushing to get these things done. And Cayman, I have to say that the Cayman Islands has been, sort of ahead of the ball. But it's the effectiveness and really, and I have to really give kudos off to government and the Ministry of Financial Services in the amount of work and the effort that is going in to make sure that our reports are going to be of the level that they need to be.
Yeah, excellent. Now we mentioned the acronym DNFBP. That is pretty much non-financial business and profession. But tell us, give us some examples of what entities fall under that umbrella, just to make it clear.
Okay, so primarily it's the legal services, and that's not just the big law firms that are engaged in financial services. These are even the smaller sole providers, whatever. If you're doing real estate transactions, even in the law firm, so law firms will do real estate transactions.
The closings and stuff.
That's a higher risk area. So that's a DNFPB. Real estate agents and agencies and, those firms, property managers, those are DNFPBs. Jewelry stores, anybody who's dealing with cash, actually it falls into automobiles and all of that. I'm not quite sure where the automobiles are going yet, but we had those discussions. But it's another DNFPB. You could go in, I'm not sure you can in this day and age, but before you would be able to take $50,000 in cash and go and buy a car.
Yeah.
Right? I think those days are over. Same thing with real estate. Real estate
and
has always
developers.
been, that's always been sort of labeled as a high risk area for money launderers.
But I'm listening to this. What's going to become of cash?
Well, cash, it's...
listening to you.
Yeah. No, it is interesting, but it's not just cash transactions.
Okay.
It's any transactions.
But
Because
red flags are up when you see
flags,
somebody comes
absolutely.
in with $50,000
Oh, yes.
cash.
That's why in the U.S., if you went to go and take, I think the level might be $5,000. You can't just go into a U.S. bank now and deposit $5,000. Cayman, you could never do that. Is $10,000 still? So in Cayman, you couldn't do that from, I remember back in the 1980s, you couldn't bring $10,000 in cash without having the backed up information, right? And, and everybody does, again, you get upset when even now the banks ask you, if you get a check for $15,000 and you take it to deposit to your account, even though you've been a customer of them for 30 years, where'd you get this money from, and you have to, so that type of privacy now is gone. But it is, it's because of all of these criminals and the proliferation that we had in the anti-money laundering that, the rest of us sort of have to. I get frustrated like everybody else.
Yes, I can imagine.
And having to go in.
But you understand.
Yes,
this is putting and making it understandable for all of the persons out there. Example, kids in their piggy banks, 5-gallon Le Bleu or whatever Flowers bottle, and you just fill that up with coins. You could get a couple hundred, if not a few thousand, based on what coins. you suggest you take a picture of it. Look, this is where this is derived. I've been saving this for 10 years. Every now I do the laundry and my kids pay me. I just put it into the bottle. That's my source of funds.
I mean, it's almost, you could almost draw a parallel with the transportation safety.
Yes.
In the inspections that you have to go through when you go through it. I mean, there is a parallel there. It's all pretty much for the same reason.
Yes.
That's obviously terrorism, but you want to make sure that what you're bringing in and, it's all legitimate and it's within the regular course of business.
Ladies, we got to take a quick break. When we come back, we will hear about the international reporting procedures for entities, and we'll dabble a little bit into, again, more outreach awareness.
I'm Michael Webster.
And I'm Denise Brown of Cayman Insurance Center.
Family is not the most important thing, it's everything.
And for 45 years, we have worked with the community and their families on protecting themselves for the future.
Whether it's providing top-rated life insurance
or protecting your family's household investment.
From our family to yours, we understand and we care.
I'm Denise Brown. Call me at 814-7229.
And I'm Michael Webster at 925-5433.
We are Cayman Insurance Center,
specializing in property, life, and other lines of insurance products and services at an affordable rate. We are Michael and
Denise at Cayman Insurance Center.
Call today.
Cayman Carnival Batabanu presents Outta the Blue Harbor Drive Waterfront, Friday, May 3rd, 8 p.m. Featuring from Trinidad and Tobago, the Water King, Iwan George.
Come in front for your...
From Barbados, whining sensation, Marsville. International DJ Storm and DJ Duchess and local DJ Frost. General admission $25, VIP $50 with all you can drink separate bar and entrance. Get tickets online at eventpros.com and from Le Classique on Mary Street.
Attention accounting service providers. According to the Anti-Money Laundering and Counter-Terrorist Financing Regulations, all firms providing accounting services, including but not limited to bookkeeping, payroll, accounts preparation, or tax advice, are required to register with the Cayman Islands Institute of Professional Accountants by May 30th. Free workshops will be provided on May 3rd, 10th, and 17th. For more information, call 749-3360. Email admin@ciipa.ky or visit ciipa.ky.
Welcome back to the Business Buzz, the business topics that matter, an insightful and fresh take on a variety of issues that impact the local business environment. Business Buzz.
Welcome back to the Business Buzz. It is proudly sponsored by Cayman Medical Supplies and in Cayman Insurance Center. Keeping the spotlight and knowing more and definitely getting the word out there and campaign to raise awareness as to the responsibilities in regards to anti-money laundering and counter-finance of terrorism as it specifically relates to accounting profession. But there are other entities that falls under this umbrella as well that we mentioned, real estate agents, dealers, commodities, precious metals, lawyers and accountants that can be affected. Everyone. You could be like what she said, a food and beverage server or just, everyone's going to be affected by this. Mm-hmm. But telling us more, I'm pleased to have Ms. Sherry Ebanks, CEO of CIIPA, and Ms. Vanessa Hansen, Head of Operations and Communications, telling us more this morning. Now let's talk a little bit about the certain international reporting procedures that entities are responsible in maintaining. So if you wouldn't mind just going into that a little bit for us.
So I think, first of all, everybody is responsible for doing an internal risk assessment, understanding what their risk is. And this is something, we provide AML training actually on an annual basis to help the accounting profession with this. And then understanding red flags. So that means they're going to need to do some internal training themselves. So they make sure that all of their staff understand what it is and what to look out for. That training will need to include suspicious activity reports, what they are, how to complete them. And then they also, all of the organizations will need to appoint what's called, here we go with another acronym, MLRO, which is a money laundering reporting officer. So that basically within an organization, somebody sees something and they know who their main point of contact at their company is to report to. And then that person is responsible for reporting to the Financial Reporting Authority.
Okay.
Right?
So, and I just sort of to include in that, obviously you're going to have some sole practitioners, for example, and you're not going to be taking on an MLRO, but you're then your own MLRO, and you need to do your own reporting. There are firms on the island now who actually you can outsource that work to.
Okay.
And it's not hugely expensive. And also you can outsource getting yourself organized. So you should have a policy internally on what your AML, in other words, document what you're doing for CDD, your customer due diligence. Document what you're doing for KYC. These are the things. When I take on a new client, this is how I onboard a new client, right? So once you document all of that, and then you can evidence that, yes, I've thought about it. Yes, this is what I do. This is my risk assessment. I don't do anything in this. And we have a form that, it sort of helps. What are these things, what do you engage
checks and balances,
in?
right.
And then you can sign a declaration, say, well, I'm not engaged in any of this type of business. And we stay in contact and, have discussions. But CIIPA is also there to help. So if somebody is really confused or they don't know, does this apply to me, call us, come into our office. We're there, and we're there to help because this is a serious thing for the Cayman Islands. And as I say, CIIPA's main purpose really is to protect the Cayman Islands and the economy of the Cayman Islands. And this is a huge aspect of it.
Which I think now is an appropriate time for you to ask for you to share your contact details and how persons can get additional information.
And I think what we also do is we're having learning lunches or learn-in lunches.
Okay.
And I'll let Vanessa go ahead and talk through those.
So we have 3 lunch and learns coming up. One this Friday, the 3rd. That one's going to be held at the Chamber of Commerce Training Room. The 10th, that's going to be at the training room at Cannon Place. And then the 17th, we'll be back at the Chamber of Commerce training room. Those are from 12 to 1:30. The idea there is to explain what everybody's role is, what the supervision is going to look like, what they need to make sure that they have in place in terms of those policies. So we want to help and then let them know what to expect. Again, those are from 12 to 1:30. We'd appreciate it if you could register online. So if you go to our website, CIIPA.ky, we actually have an AML CFT page, so they can go to that and find that there. But they can also just go to our live training events and register. And then again, they can call us 749-3360 or email us admin@CIIPA.ky.
Okay. Please, I'll leave you both an opportunity to recap about the main points that you'd like to leave with our listening audience this morning as it regards to our topic at hand.
So I think I would like again to reiterate that this is not just an exercise for either CIIPA to register more accounting firms or whatever. This is an exercise that is island-wide, and it's not just island-wide. It is globally, and it is extremely important for everybody to be aware of what AML is. What does it mean? What does it mean to you personally? And what does it mean to your business and overall the economy in the Cayman Islands? And I think that's super, super important. We do have, there's a number of different supervisors. So if you're engaged in any type of accounting services or bookkeeping services, contact us. Even if you're not sure, give us a call and talk through. And we can say, yes, you register with us, or no, you need to register with DCI, or no, you need to register with CIIPA. CIIPA is the Cayman Islands Legal Practitioners Association. So they're the supervisor for the legal profession. So, just pick up the phone and call. And yeah, I think that's, it's just really, really important that this is what needs to happen.
And we're not trying to add an extra layer of, I guess that's the thing. We're not trying to add an extra layer of red tape or complications. So, for example, the approach has been if somebody's actually covered off by CIMA, then that's fine. They're covered by CIMA. So we're not
added another layer.
You are not going to be inspected by CIIPA and us, for example.
All right.
And we really need people to reach out. We have information on our website, but of course this is new for some people, so we understand that it might be a little bit overwhelming, but we're here to help and get everybody on the right track, and then we'll go through our inspection process.
And repeat the deadline again for registration, if you
May 30th, yeah.
Thank you, ladies. It has been a pleasure.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
We've been speaking with Ms. Cherie Ebanks, CEO of CIIPA, and Ms. Vanessa Hansen, Head of Operations and Communications. It's a very important topic, and we hope that you log on to their website for more information or just give them a call if you want to find out whether or not you are actually in this group that needs to be registered by the end of this month. Again, the Business Buzz is proudly sponsored by Cayman Medical Supplies. Give them a call, 949-6211, and also by Cayman Insurance Center, celebrating 45 years in the Cayman Islands, specializing in property, life, and other lines of insurance products and services. I am Sabrina Turner, inviting you to join me again on Thursday for another Business Buzz. We want to thank our sponsor, Susan, Susan, who's behind the boards as well. Until Thursday, have a safe and fabulous Tuesday.
Business Buzz is proudly sponsored by insurance agents Michael Webster and Denise Brown from Cayman Insurance Center, specializing in life and property insurance. Don't take chances with your family's future.
Continuing the Caymanian tradition.
Let Cora keep my ground so clean.
The heart and soul of the Cayman people. Thank you for keeping the culture alive.
Let's spread the news every day. From East End to Georgetown, down into West Bay.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.